Can you see me and hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. I'm trying to determine if we are live. Let's see.
I think so. On my end, I see that it says live on Facebook.
I think we are too.
Awesome.
Excellent. Woohoo. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm all set. Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone on Facebook and everywhere else. Julie Oakes with the Results Realty Group at Layer Realty Partners, and I am here live today with my friend Erin, the fabulous Erin Bose with Scout and Cellar Wines. So we're going to talk a little bit and get to know a little bit more about Erin and her business. I'm so glad you're here today, Erin. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
I know. Thank you so much for, inviting me on. This is so fun. Yes, I'm super excited to share more about myself and Scout and Cellar and get to know everyone that is watching as well. Maybe some follow-up after.
So the majority of the reason for this is we want to get to know your business, but really I want people to be able to get to know Erin and what she's all about and why it's great to do business with you. So I'm going to shoot you out some questions.
Okay.
If it's a little too if you're not prepared for it, that's okay. We can move on to the next thing. I have a bunch of questions that I like to ask people, and some of them have to do with what we're dealing with in the world right now.
Sure.
And some of them have to do with you. Some of them have to do with your business, so on and so forth. So, first question is, what's your family like? Where did you grow up? Like your family of origin?
Sure. So I'm originally from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So I grew up down there full time, and it was always funny because when I'd meet people, they couldn't believe that anybody lived there year round. It was always, oh, I only have a summer house there, or that's where we go for summer vacation. So, but I grew up in a small town. And although I was in a small town, we had a regional high school. So 7 towns came together to go to school. So,
wow.
Yeah. So we actually had quite a large a group at the schools. But so most of my family still lives down there on the Cape. My parents are still down there, aunts, uncles, cousins. And then after high school, I moved away and ended up going to college in Framingham and working full time. So, and then I settled in Boston for a while and met my husband. And then we moved to Foxborough, Massachusetts when I was pregnant with my son, which is where we are now. So I have an 11-year-old son, and we live here and love it so far. It's been a great family town. So, and it's close to the Cape, it's close to Rhode Island where my husband's family is. So it's kind of a nice, centrally located area.
That's great.
Yeah.
You like Foxborough?
I do. Yeah. We've really enjoyed it. Like, it's exciting having the Patriots here and the games and there's always something going on around town or up at, Patriots Place. But it's also just a really good family community place. The town's always doing a lot for the families here. So we enjoy it.
That's great to know. I always kind of wondered about Foxborough, if people who live there, if it aggravates them or if and all the busyness with the Patriots.
Yeah.
Maybe it depends on where you live in Foxborough. I don't know.
Yeah, we just have learned that on game days, although this year looks very different, but on game days, typically we don't leave the house. Like you're not running down to the store for anything. But other than that, or like if there's concerts, anytime there's a large event, we just kind of have to plan a little bit ahead of time.
That makes sense.
I
That makes
got
sense.
stuck one too many times on Route 1. Trying
I can imagine. I mean, it's happened to me going to, oh, and I always forget the name of it. Is it the Twitter Center
Oh yeah, Comcast
concerts?
Comcast.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, they keep changing the name. I know.
I know.
Yeah.
But the concert venue in Mansfield that we
Yes.
were in Massachusetts. Yeah. Yeah. Traffic gets bad around there. And when I was younger, I used to live nearby there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It gets crazy.
So how old were you, if you can recall, when you had your first job, and what was the job?
Oh, wow. Okay. I can definitely recall. So I got my first job as soon as I could get my permit to work. So I actually probably technically had my first job prior to that, but my first legal job, I did like the babysitting. I did my
Yes.
parents, my father owns a landscaping company, so he put me to work occasionally. But my first job, I was actually working in food service for a conference center on the Cape. So they held retreats there, or like business conferences. And yeah, I think I was, so what is it, 14, I think, to get your permit for working, something around there, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Different places have different rules.
Yeah.
That in certain places you can work when you're 14,
Yeah.
some places 16, some places 18. But
So yeah, so ever since I have worked always since then.
you must have met a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. So on the Cape, because it was so seasonal too, our most of the jobs that are available to you are, in the service industry, whether it's hospitality or food service at a restaurant or
That makes
working at the
sense.
beaches. Yeah, definitely.
That makes sense. Cool. Okay. Here's one that this is actually my favorite question to ask.
Oh boy.
And I'll sort of I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, and it's
Okay.
a comfortable question, but I'll tell you something about myself too. So
Okay.
tell me something about yourself that people would be surprised to know. So the thing about myself that people are usually surprised to find out, and I think I said this when I interviewed Greg Stafford, but I just love heavy metal music.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. Oh, that's so fun. Um, hmm. There's a few things I can think of, but one thing that I think people would be really surprised to know, especially if they've met me in person, because I tend to be fairly outgoing, and people tell me that they feel like I'm super confident when I'm in front of them. I actually battled severe anxiety since I was in high school. So like 16, 17 years old. So it got really bad. Like I had panic attacks often. I actually, missed out on work trips and even family trips because it got in the way. But I have come so far, with it, and I've really pushed through it. But it's funny because if you knew now that I travel so much for work and I actually thoroughly enjoy it, whereas before it would have been like something I dreaded, to have to get on a plane and fly and be places I didn't know what to expect. So now I'm like in a new phase of my life where I love adventure, I love travel. It's kind of like super liberating, but I don't think people would ever expect that. I hid the anxiety really well in person.
I was thinking of exactly that word, adventure, because that's how I see you, that you're very open to adventure. And
Oh.
that does surprise me. But at the same time, doesn't that make you feel great that people are surprised to know that?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's helpful for people to know those things because they only sometimes see what's on the outside, right? Like I think a lot of us, it's easy to put on that front when you're in front of people or at a network meeting or at work, and then you what's really going on inside, nobody really knows or talks about sometimes. So
Agreed.
yeah, it's important to let people know, like, you can have this and still kind of like thrive and make it through. Yeah.
Well, you know, I like to think of every day as a new opportunity to grow and become a better person. And when I was little, maybe a little bit different, but I know I was so very shy,
Mm-hmm.
not like talking to people. I hid behind my mother, and I'm not like that anymore.
Right. Not at all.
Yeah, I'm the one, if I'm at a networking group and somebody's standing alone by themselves, I'll go over to that person. Hey, come meet some people. I think
That's awesome. That's what I love about you, Julie. You totally made me feel super comfortable the first time we met, and just very welcoming.
I appreciate that, because I do strive to do that. So what do you do for fun other than traveling? And
Oh, for fun, yes. So pre-COVID, I used to host a lot at my house. I love a good party. I love entertaining people and having them over. Um, so we've kind of reinvented what we do for fun this year. I've actually spent a lot of time exploring nature, which I didn't know I liked as much as I do, because I just didn't have a lot of free time to go out and do hiking and camping and biking and all of that. So this has been a really cool opportunity for me to spend more time doing that stuff. And I actually love it. So I found that I love to hike and kayak and mountain bike. And so I'm doing a lot of that for fun these days. Yeah.
so you mentioned camping too. Do you guys go camping?
So it's kind of a running joke in my family, because I grew up camping when I was younger.
Mhm.
But my husband is, I like to call him the anti-camper. So he's like, anything to do with like outdoors or getting dirty or like, so he's like, it's not for him. So it's really funny, because we just never did it. And then I had my son, and he got into Boy Scouts when he was younger, or Cub Scouts, whatever it was, and they were doing camping trips, and it was like I was the mom on the trips. Like I was like the only mom, on the little Cub Scout trips, setting up the tent and doing the little scavenger hunts. And then, but what's great about that is that now I kind of feel confident that I know how to do some of that. So I've been taking my son camping. So me and him, that's something that we do kind of together, like a special mom and son kind of bonding thing.
That's what I thought. I'm glad you said that, because I thought I remembered a post from you that you and he were going away on a camping trip. And
Yes.
it's so fun, and I've been there with the Boy Scouts, although I wasn't able to go along on the trips.
Yeah.
That's really fabulous, because it just, like you said, it gives you more confidence that you can handle things on your own, because well, I suppose it all depends where you go as well.
This is true.
When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, we had this big group of friends, and we would go camping Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains. And
So
there was one time that myself and another person, we actually got lost. So so it's good to have confidence and know what you're doing, because I did not.
yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot to learn, but yeah.
It's
You
fun,
need to
isn't
have
it?
you need to have like some basic skills and safety skills. Absolutely.
And do you bring along a little stove to cook, or do you cook on the fire? How do you do that?
A little bit of both. I have like a griddle that I'll bring for, so we almost do like a combination between glamping, like so we're like camping in the woods, but we want to be a little comfortable. So,
Sure.
we'll like sleep on the air mattresses. I'll have like a fan in the summer.
Absolutely.
And I have cooked on the fire whenever I can. I actually love to cook on the open fire, but A lot of times we'll bring a grill along, like a portable grill, or I think I've even gone one time, we brought a crock pot.
No kidding.
And it was
Wow.
genius because you could make things ahead and like just throw it into the crock pot to warm it. So
Sure.
that is pretty, I think I would do that again.
That's really awesome. It is. I think these past 6 months, especially, even at the start of it, when it was cold, that I discovered the importance of getting outside, getting fresh air, because
Yes.
we can only be cooped up in the house so long and hold on to our sanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know I think it was the first week that they closed the schools. So my son also struggles a little bit with anxiety, and I've tried to teach him over the years to ride his bike, but the anxiety like kept kind of getting in the way, and then he would get frustrated, and then we would get frustrated, and we'd kind of just be like, okay, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that once they closed the schools, we were going to have to find an outlet for him physically. So
Right.
I actually went out and bought myself a bike so I could teach him how to ride. And then I ended up taking him across the street where we have an empty parking lot. And I just said, look, like you're 10. I think he's like, oh, he was just 11. So I said, we're doing this because you and mom are going to have to get out of the house and exercise and stuff. So he
Good for you.
actually learned, like in that one day, he just learned, and it was just like, he just picked it right up. And within 2 days, the kid was doing off-roading trails on a mountain bike. So I was like, awesome. So it forced us to get out. I knew that we would have to like just have no excuses. We had to get out of the house. It was just too much with
Absolutely.
working here.
So going from there and just sort of pivoting, like learning how to pivot. So tell me a little bit about your business and how you sort of normally do things and how you've had to pivot from COVID.
Yeah, it's been really different. So first of all, if you asked me, 3 years ago, if I would ever this is what I was going to be doing for my career, never in a million years would I have expected this. So I kind of fell into this opportunity with Scout and Cellar, and really it was a new company, brand new when I learned about it. It's 3 years old now, but my cousin is a friend of the owner, the founder. So
Nice.
when I got involved, nobody knew about this brand out here, especially on the East Coast. The company's based out of Texas. So I had a real challenge of how am I going to spread the brand awareness? And a lot of how I could do that was in-person events. I had to be out there talking about the brand, showing the wines, letting people sample them. So I really built my whole business around in-person wine tasting events. And when COVID started to shut down everything and events were kind of knocked off of the radar for everyone for so long, at first there was some panic there, like how are we going to continue to showcase these wines? But what we did was we pivoted to really doing more online Zoom meetings, and it was a challenge. I won't say it was easy. It was a learning curve for sure. And it was a challenge to not necessarily have everybody be able to have the wine in their hands. But we pivoted to more of an education event versus just a wine tasting.
That's really good too, though, because
yeah,
I know that's one of the things that I really appreciate, because I'm not shy about admitting that I like wine, but I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I knew hardly anything about it when I started. So it's amazing how much there is to learn about it. It's truly like an art form. But I think what's been interesting is that one thing that was unexpected, we didn't really expect to have a surge in sales. just because of the fact that we were able to ship direct to people's homes. So that was an unexpected, I would say silver lining that.
Just to clarify, that was already in place, right? That was already Scout and Cellar is direct to people. That was already in place, right?
It was already in place. And so often we'd have customers who had bought from us in the past because they had tried the wine at an event, and then they would just reorder. But it was hard to get somebody who maybe hadn't tried our wines before to order. But because a lot of the stores were operating limited hours or shutting down, and people were worried about, exposure standing in line at like a liquor store, online alcohol sales skyrocketed for a lot of reasons. Also, there was a lot more, stress at home, and people were just staying in. So instead of like going out to a restaurant or a bar, you're now staying in. So it just
coping at home.
Yeah, it changed the dynamic really, of how we do our business. But I think it's going to be this way for a while. So we're just learning how to run these kind of successful online events like everyone else. It's a learning curve.
It sounds like it's gone very successful though. And just so everyone watching knows, so I met Erin at a networking event, maybe about a year and a half ago, something like that. And she has since joined my local networking group near my office, which is really, really exciting. And a few weeks ago, we had an outdoor event.
That's so nice.
Which was really, the idea of it was really fabulous. And the execution was fabulous, except that we had the little interruption of a major thunderstorm. But again, we adapted, we pivoted. But it was really, really great because there was plenty of room for us to be separate. And we had our own little charcuterie.
Little plates, small plates.
Yeah, little plates. Yep.
The
tapas and the different wines. And it was really fabulous. So it's doable.
Yeah.
But it was a way, and there were a couple of people there that I think there were one or two people there that I didn't know. And then I know there were a couple of people there that got some exposure to it that were new to it. And that was really great, especially my husband is not a big wine fan, but there was one that he was kind of okay with. Which really
I love that.
surprised me because he tends to like things really on the sweet side.
Yeah.
And but it was a really great time. It was great to see people in person. I know we were separated by quite a distance, much more than 6 feet.
Yeah.
But it was a fabulous thing to do. And I learned a lot, and just how you have the knowledge, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. You have the knowledge of, the origin of that particular wine, and even the farms that they come from, and so much information about them, which is amazing. And anybody who deals with, excuse me, headaches or anything like that, to know that they don't have, Scout and Cellar wines don't have sulfites and things like that, are just amazing because they call them clean crafted, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's funny, Julie, because the thing that really, really drew me to Scout and Cellar, more than just the, wine is delicious, is the mission behind our company to support small farmers. So I don't know if it's that I grew up with a dad who was a landscaper or what, but I have had this renewed passion for gardening and planting my own vegetables. And I had done that for the past several years. And then when I found out the real mission behind this company, Scout and Cellar, the idea is that we're helping to save these small organic vineyards that are, at risk of being bought out by larger companies because they didn't have a good outlet for where to sell their wine. A lot of these wines that they make are small batch, so they're not like a large enough contract for a store like a Wines and More or a
Right. They didn't have a, there wasn't necessarily
right.
a large market that they thought.
There wasn't a large market outside of just their own little tasting rooms. And so really what we do is we go in and we partner with these farmers. We get to know them on a real personal level. We get to know about their families, and we get to know about their practices and how they farm and what they use and what they don't use. But ultimately, like you said, we will not work with any vineyard that's using chemical pesticides or fertilizers. So like no Roundup, no like Miracle Grow, nothing like that. They all have to be tested and come out clean. So with no added sugars, no additives, and no excess sulfites. So one misconception that I love to just clear for people is that people assume often that their reactions or headaches or whatnot might be coming from sulfites in the wine. And that could be the case, but more often than not, it's another additive. And sulfites are actually naturally occurring. So they're always in grapes. They're also in dried fruit and orange juice. So just all wine will have some level of sulfites in it. It's just that
Sure.
ours have like a very small percentage compared to a mass produced wine.
That's a really, really good point, because a lot of the reactions that we have to things that we may eat or drink, they are probably to an extent coming from the chemicals that they're with which they're grown.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, now that you mention it, I do recall a relative of mine being diagnosed with a particular condition when he was younger, and doctors wanted to put him on medication, and the mother said no. And so she did some research on her own and discovered that a lot of his condition was based on things in his food, and took those things out of his diet, and lo and behold,
He got better.
he kind of leveled off.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
It's a really good point.
Yeah, the biggest eye opener for me was I was out in Napa Valley for work, and I stayed a few extra days by myself. I stayed at this little B&B. It was glorious.
I can imagine.
And I was talking to the owners of this bed and breakfast, and the woman who was a nurse at one of the hospitals up there told me that their breast cancer rate has skyrocketed over the last 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
And in that particular region. So, we were talking about, well, why is there a theory on like why that might be? But honestly, the aerial spraying of pesticides like Roundup
Sure.
is so common practice now that, it gets it. The problem is once it gets into the soil and the water, and, so it's just really tricky. So even organic farms and vineyards could be affected by aerial spraying from residual blowover, or it gets into the water and it has runoff. So there's it's really just everywhere. And so we're working super hard to expose that and help vineyards, make an active campaign against not using that anymore.
I could probably talk all day about that. I just want to acknowledge and say hi to Tim Mayers, who's watching with us. But awesome. It just really sparks something in me when you're talking about that as a green realtor. Just really supporting not just the small business, but supporting the sustainability of the small business and taking care of. I'm getting goosebumps here. Taking care of the earth that we use to grow our food and drink. And it's such an important thing because I don't know, I get really passionate about this. I don't want to really get emotional, but I think we're called to be stewards of this planet.
Yeah.
Everyone is called to make a difference in whatever way we can, whatever it is our power to do, to leave this planet a better place than we found.
Totally. Actually, that's like literally on our mission statement. I don't think I could work with a company like this if there wasn't a real strong connection to a give back, to some way of like a philanthropic angle. And I think for me, Julie, what I love too is that it kind of goes beyond just supporting the farmers for the sustainability for us. Like, I know that our owner and CEO is completely passionate about shipping in. So for example, we ship in lighter bottles, lighter glass, to reduce carbon emissions during transport. And everything from the ink that we print for our marketing down to the packaging is fully curbside recyclable. We're the only wine company that ships in fully 100% curbside recyclable packaging. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's important, and it's a huge responsibility of us to leave this world better than we found it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, most definitely. Wow. So, another pivot.
Sure.
From that and what you do now.
Yeah.
What will you be remembered for 100 years from now?
Oh gosh. It's so funny that you're asking me this, because I think like one of the challenges, and I think not to say that men don't also have this, but I feel like as women, and when you become a mom too, like we have to kind of pivot ourselves and redefine ourselves so many times. I've had so many different careers that have gone drastically in different directions. And some people would look at that and say, that's a weakness that or they would look at it like, you're just jumping from kind of like thing to thing. But when I like look and think about everything I've done, it's really brought me to where I am today. And I have taken something from everything I've done in my past, and it's helps me in what I'm doing now. So I guess where I'm finding my passion right now is in really leading and teaching people. And so and when I think about my past careers, that was always the common thread. So it just changes. So like, for example, when
the subject matter changes,
but I'm always a people person. Like I'm always an in-person. I love to educate. I love to teach. And so, starting from my young career in retail management, where I had sales associates that I had to train and hire and onboard and teach, then I had my son with who has special needs, and I had to, learn how to work with him. So I was constantly not only learning, but teaching my family and his teachers how to work with him. And then I ended up getting into special education and working with families and teaching them how to work with their kids. So it's a theme. So I think for me, I would want to be remembered as somebody who really taught people how to, either work, like have confidence in themselves, work better, relate better to their employees or their family members, or like, I think I just want to be known for somebody who was like, who led the way, who like blazed a path for people to, succeed in whatever definition that is for them.
I would echo what you just said, because, when you're talking about how we as women, a lot of times, hi Dan Silverman, how we frequently pivot and do different things throughout our lifetimes, I would say to that deserves applause, because I think that we are on a journey that a life journey that's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Mhm.
Constantly changing. Every day we're changing. And I think when we do those different things throughout our lives, I think that's honoring the person that we are at that moment.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
And just sort of walking in that path where we are right there. And I think that's a really awesome thing to do. I think the thought of going to school, graduating, going to college, getting a job and staying in that job for 30 or 40 years, I think it's very antiquated.
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily fit who we are as people. Maybe it did then, maybe it didn't. And that's just what they thought they had to do. But
Mhm.
I really love the idea of honoring who we are at the moment and going with the flow of who you are at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a challenge for people to accept it sometimes. Like I know when you have a career and then you step back maybe to stay at home with kids or something, it can be hard to feel like you still have that professionalism or that confidence or especially entering back into the workplace when your kids are older. So I just want to encourage people too that, don't let that don't feel like that's a weak point that that you stayed home with your kids. I mean, honestly, I know so many women who wish they could have done that. So it's definitely not going to take away from your credibility.
Definitely not. I would agree with that because I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 20 years. And
Mhm.
I started my real estate career in my mid 40s. And, I struggled a lot with it
Yeah.
because I thought, well, I struggled with confidence and, what can I offer the world? And then, when some people spoke into my life and I just realized, you know what? I have a lot to offer the world and how dare I not?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I try to keep thinking along those lines because we all have something to offer.
Yes.
If you are a contributing member of society, which I am and I continue to want to be, and I rear my children to be that way, that we need to find a way that we can contribute. And we all have something to contribute.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes us longer to find it, but that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. So, so what advice would you give, Erin, to a younger version of yourself? Maybe
Mhm.
who was down at the Cape working, working those parties and things like that.
Oh, this is good. Um, this is so good. So many things to say there.
Right? Right?
But I think honestly that if I had to think about like the biggest thing that held me back or opportunities that I didn't jump on, it would come down to worrying too much about what other people were thinking. Um, I think even now I struggle with that from time to time. You go to make a post on social media for your business or you go on to do a live like this and you're like, is everything perfect? Is it, does it look okay? Should I delete it and redo it? Like, I think too much of us are in our head, too many of us are in our head and wondering about what everyone else
100%.
might judge or think.
100%. Yep.
And so I think I would tell my younger self, like, just do it. And everyone is going to have an opinion. So it doesn't matter anyways, at the end of the day, you can't please everybody and you've got to just be you. And if you're just confident in yourself, like the people that are supposed to connect with you, the people that are supposed to like what you're saying are the ones that will. And I think the other thing I would say is, and I've learned this the hard way too, is that you really have to edit down your circle sometimes, like as you get older in life, like I think it's more important that you have the right people at your side versus a lot of people at your side.
Agreed.
So just kind of like release blessing and releasing what is no longer like breathing energy into you. And that's hard to do.
Or breathing the right energy.
breathing the right energy and not draining you. Yeah.
I've had to do that. People who I love dearly, I just, I've had to let them go because I really, toxicity doesn't really do anything to
Yeah.
further you becoming a better person. It really
Right.
isn't. And if they don't want to let that go either, there's not much you can do about that. So,
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
yep. What keeps you up at night?
Oh my God. My to-do list.
I hear that.
I would say that I'm not a great time manager. So it's hard for me to feel like I've gotten as much as I can done through the day, like the hours just fly. And that definitely stresses me out. I go to bed wondering, what did I forget to do today? What do I have to do first thing tomorrow?
Yeah, I relate. I definitely relate to that. And that's, one of the things we're on this marathon journey of life. And that's one of the things that I'm constantly trying to work on because my personality is very go with the flow.
Me too.
I
And
really,
it's
I
hard.
really,
It's
I
good.
really like being spontaneous. I like being go with the flow. And it's not always the best thing for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to learn that better. So I definitely relate to that. I definitely relate to that. What's your favorite book or movie?
Oh, wow. Oh, I like so many books. So I would say that one of my favorite books was Wild. That was, I think, they did make a movie about it, but it was, about a woman who decided to take like a solo trek up the Appalachian Trail.
Yep.
And it kind of followed her. And I remember at the time I was reading it, I said to myself, I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to go alone, be out there in the woods like that. Cause again, my anxiety was so much in full force then. So I really admired that about her in the book. And then I would say from like a professional development standpoint, like, oh, I don't know if I just got knocked off or not. There we go. I
Nope,
would
you're fine.
a professional standpoint, like the book Get Over Your Damn Self is really good for somebody who, is struggling with like the self-doubt stuff.
That's a new one on me. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. It's good. It kind of just is real and it gets down to like and the other one that everybody is reading right now is Everything is Figure Outable.
Oh, I think I've heard about that.
Yeah, that's also a great book. Yeah. Movies are hard. I'm a wicked like hopeless romantic when it comes to movies, like romantic comedies or yeah. So
That's funny because uh I'm a gigantic like sci-fi fantasy superhero geek. To
yeah.
the point where the car that I drive, right? So it's the first car that I've named. I drive a bright orange VW, and I named it the Mandarin
I love that.
because it's a name from the Marvel universe. Anybody who knows about Marvel stuff, name it.
Yeah, my husband and my son would know all of that. Yeah.
That's funny. So if you hadn't ended up doing Scout and Cellar like you are, what do you think you would be doing? And I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but
It depends. I think I would probably have stayed working with my hands in special education. I still do. But I do it more on a volunteer basis. But yeah, just I can relate really well to, families and kids who struggle. And I just think that it brings me like a sense of fulfillment to, just be with them. And unless it's, my own kid. No, I'm kidding. It's always different when it's your own kid. You have so much less patience, right?
yeah, yeah. I get that though, but because it is super important for people to identify with each other, and so someone doesn't feel alone.
Mhm.
Like I'm the only one who deals with this, and even with the special needs, arena, there are just so many different variables even within that arena that someone might, feel alone, especially, with different family dynamics and different work dynamics and living situations. And even right now with different towns and school districts doing different things with remote versus in-person learning. And, a friend of mine has a special needs daughter, and where we live, they're really focusing on getting those kids inside the brick and mortar building. And her particular daughter with her needs, she's like, no way, no way. She's better at home. I'm keeping her at home.
I'm on a call. Sorry, speaking of the devil.
That's okay. That's okay. I have my kids back there doing stuff too. So
Yeah, we were just saying, like my husband and I were just talking this morning, it's really challenging. It's really hard for everyone right now, even though, people have different situations, I think just the stress level is high.
yes.
Even if things are seemingly going well, because you've got just juggling the schedules of, oh, I have a conference call this time. When do you have a conference call? Who's going to be in what room? Is the kid on live today? Or it's just,
Yes. And at some point the kids might want to eat something.
yeah, so
dinner, what's that?
yeah. Oh, so it's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah.
I anticipate wine sales going up again in October.
100%. Most definitely. Most definitely. I've said more than once that during this period of time, like at the end of whenever I know I'm putting it out to the universe that there's going to be an end to this. And when we get back, there are some people who are really going to make out like crazy. There's going to be obstetricians,
Yeah.
divorce lawyers, psychologists. They're going to make out like crazy.
Yes. I know construction is really good right now, like especially smaller projects, right?
Oh, everybody's renovating.
Yeah, landscaping.
Let's put a deck. We have to get a deck so we can get outside. We're going to put a pool. Yes, everybody's renovating. Yeah.
It's crazy.
No kidding. No kidding. So I'm thinking that you are needed by your son. Is he?
Oh, actually, my mother-in-law is here, so she is actually upstairs too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do a couple more questions,
Sure.
and then we'll finish up. So I really appreciate your time. But what does and I know this is kind of a loaded question too, but whether you want to answer it pre-COVID, right now, whatever, what does the typical day look like for you? I know my typical day is really atypical.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing yours is too.
It is. Every day kind of looks a little different. Partly because of my personality and partly because of just the nature of what I do. But I have a really hard time being a schedule person, like a, routine every day. I get really kind of bored with that. And also I've just never been great about sticking to it. So, but I do have some things that are every day, right? So like typically I get up and get my son out the door, or set up for school. And then I kind of like pivot. I start usually with some coffee. And then I kind of pivot from there on, I try to either get a workout in the morning so that I used to always work out at night. Like that was my thing because I'm just not a morning person. What
Wow, me either.
Yeah, I'm
Me
so
either.
not a morning person. But what I found was if I do force myself to do it in the morning, then I actually have so much more energy throughout the rest of the day. I can power through. So I'm really trying to do that a couple times a week. And then, my days are typically split between doing calls with either team members of mine that need support or customer orders, getting those placed for them, or talking to people who are just maybe looking for something else to do, whether it's adding like Scout and Cellar on as a side job, as a side gig. And we know now how important it is to diversify your income. So a lot of people are looking at like ways to make some extra cash on the side. So I often will have calls with people just explaining to them, how it all works. And then I also run bigger like team calls because I have about 700 people on my team across the country. So we have to find ways to connect with them because they're, on different sides of the country. And so that's kind of, I tend to have a lot scheduled in the evenings. I would say between like 6 and 9 or 7 and 9.
Wow.
That's a challenge at times.
But it's a good thing. More of a night person, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's great.
Our challenge is East Coast and West Coast,
The
finding
time difference.
a time that
Right.
everyone can kind of get on. Yeah. But that's kind of a day. And then whenever it's nice out, I have a tendency to like drop what I'm doing and make sure, like this afternoon, I will definitely be kayaking because it's just too nice out to sit inside all day.
Yeah. So I seen the weather for the next few days. It appears that, summer has returned at least for, a short period, which is really exciting. And we don't have that terrible humidity anymore. So
Absolutely.
great idea to take advantage of the weather. Excellent, excellent. So I think one last question, and oh boy, I felt like there was a sneeze coming on. So, and I'm trying to keep it at bay.
No worries.
I'm experiencing, I don't know, something in the air the last few weeks is making me sneeze and things. So I'm trying not to do that.
Allergies.
That wouldn't be pleasant. But so where is it? What do you think holds you back from doing your best work?
I would say excuses, like, not holding myself accountable, because that is one of the challenges working for yourself, is that nobody is really standing over you, holding you accountable except for yourself. And I would say that comparing myself to others in my industry, how, the success of other people, what are they doing that I'm not doing? What I learned, and probably my favorite quote that I will ever take away is, you can say this a lot of different ways, but like be a horse, in a race, and put those blinders on, and don't look to the left or the right at what people next to you are doing, because you're going to fall off your pace.
Yes.
You're going to lose your momentum. And I think of that often. So that has helped me. And sometimes that means that I need to shut off social media. Sometimes I have to step away from it, even though it's a huge, vital part of my business. Sometimes I have to step away from it because I'm getting into a negative space of comparing myself to others. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you say that, because I'm probably, over the summer, I'm discovering that about myself as well. Mm-hmm. Just for the health of my mental toughness, I need to step away from that sometimes. And, just in regard to comparing yourself to others, somebody told me something once, and and it has really stuck with me. And I say it to myself all the time. If you have a particular person that you sort of deem as the standard, or the epitome of what you would like to be, I will say to myself, well, you know, if this person can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing holding me back. And I think when you're talking about quotes, maybe that's how we'll finish today. I will share a couple of my favorite quotes. And do you know who said that quote about the horse in the race? Or do you have another favorite quote?
I think actually Oprah at one point had I think it was Oprah Winfrey.
She's the one who said about the horse with blinders.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Two of my favorite quotes that I've put in writing. I think I have them on my website and stuff like that. One is from Zig Ziglar.
Oh yeah.
And I absolutely love this quote. And I really strive to live by this quote. He says, and I'm not sure if it's verbatim, so forgive me if it's not, but he said, you can have everything in life you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is from Henry Ford. And he said, whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you're right.
Mm-hmm. I do love that one so much.
Yeah.
I like live by that. Yeah. 100%. Yep. Mindset is everything.
It is, most definitely. Most definitely. You got to have that. It's almost like a rebellious attitude to me, that you have to have a fierce determination.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you so much, Erin, for spending this time with me and sharing yourself with myself and the rest of the world. So I'm going to be posting this on my YouTube channel, and
Awesome.
I will share the link with you so you can share it on your channels.
Awesome.
Thank you everybody who watched, and thanks for spending time. And as we're still at home in this pandemic, I'll put tag Erin in my post, and definitely reach out to her so you can get your wine delivered to your door, clean crafted, no added sugar.
Yes. I'm happy to help make recommendations or yep, absolutely. And also gifting. We have holiday gift sets, believe it or not, already. Coming out. I'm like, speaking of summer outside, we're getting our holiday gift sets. So
that's right.
And actually, I'll just show you very quickly that this is the newest thing that I am super excited about. It is basically like Scout and Cellar's version of an advent calendar.
Oh my.
Except instead of counting down the days, you're counting down the family, the activities, the holiday activities that you're doing. So like if you're, baking cookies with the kids, you pop this open at the end of the day, and
that's awesome.
Or wrapping presents, or decking the halls, or stringing the lights. So this is an awesome and fun and unique gift that we have for people to celebrate the season gift set. So I'm just loving these because it's so different, and unique. And
by the way, it's okay to buy a gift for yourself too.
I'm quite sure that the majority of people ordering these are put one on the list for themselves.
I'm seriously thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. So there's 12 different wine samplers in there. Yeah, very fun.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'm just so psyched we were finally able to do this. And enjoy your kayaking and enjoy your weekend and the rest of the summer weather. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.